Welcome to Green Garden Community TV, where small spaces bloom big. Blossom. Think your tiny backyard can't handle bold, colorful flowers? Think again. Today, we're unlocking 7 stunning garden ideas that prove you don't need acres of land to create a show-stopping floral escape. From flower-filled pathways to vertical walls that bloom sky-high, these ideas aren't just beautiful, they're brilliantly space-smart. You'll discover how to frame your garden like a living picture, how one wild corner can attract butterflies by the dozens, and why a single flower island might be all it takes to transform your lawn. Ready to see how bold color can reshape a small space? Let's dig in. When space is limited, every inch counts, and that's exactly why flower borders can be your backyard's secret weapon. Instead of trying to fit large garden features into a compact area, why not work with the edges you already have? The perimeter of your yard, whether it's lined with a fence, pathway, or wall, becomes a natural frame, and with the right combination of colorful flowers, it can feel like a living painting. Imagine stepping out your back door and seeing vibrant marigolds, deep purple petunias, and snowy white alyssum blooming neatly along the edges of your lawn. It's not just pretty, it's purposeful. These flower borders create visual order without the need for bulky furniture or costly materials. They give your eye a path to follow, guiding the viewer around the space and giving a sense of movement. The effect makes even the smallest backyard feel alive, organized, and bigger than it actually is. It's an old gardener's trick. When the outer lines are softened with color and shape, the whole area opens up. If you've been staring at bare edges wondering what to do, this is your moment to turn the overlooked margins of your yard into standout features. With just a few trays of annuals and a simple planting layout, your backyard can become a cheerful, structured retreat. Whether your space is urban, suburban, or tucked behind a townhouse, flower borders bring it to life, all by redefining the edges. Creating flower borders in a small backyard is one of the most effective and low-maintenance ways to enhance the visual appeal of your outdoor space. The key is simplicity, planning, and understanding how height, texture, and color can work together to form a cohesive and striking layout all along the edges of your yard. Start with a base layer of low-growing, spreading plants. Alyssum is a great choice. It's compact, easy to grow, and gives off a sweet scent. Creeping thyme or dwarf lobelia also works well in this role, filling in the spaces near the ground with soft color and gentle movement. This base layer softens the transition between lawn and flower bed, giving the garden a natural, flowing appearance. Next, move to your middle layer. This is where color really shines. Choose hardy, long-blooming varieties like petunias, marigolds, or pansies. These plants are easy to manage, come in a wide array of colors, and create visual consistency when planted in repeating blocks. This repetition of color and height gives structure to your garden, which is especially important in a small space where clutter can become overwhelming. For a bit of height and depth, add in a third layer of slightly taller flowers like salvia, rudbeckia, or snapdragons. These upright bloomers add vertical interest without casting too much shadow or dominating the space. Keep them close to the edges of fences or walls so they don't interfere with movement or sightlines. Color palette matters too. Choose either a complementary scheme, like purple and yellow, or go for a monochromatic look, shades of pinks and reds, for example, to bring sophistication. If you're unsure, try cool colors like blue, lavender, and soft white. These tend to make a space feel more open and serene. Spacing is essential. Avoid overcrowding the plants, which can lead to poor air circulation and plant stress. Give each flower room to breathe and grow. Add mulch between rows to retain moisture, reduce weeds, and tie the whole border together visually. As the seasons change, swap out tired annuals for fresh ones and consider layering in some perennials like coreopsis or coneflower that return year after year. You'll create a sense of consistency even as the colors evolve with the seasons. Ultimately, flower borders bring definition to a small yard without clutter. They emphasize shape, encourage order, and offer a full garden experience without taking up central space. Whether you're lining a narrow pathway, outlining a square of grass, or tucking blooms beside a fence, flower borders give your small backyard a polished, colorful, and welcoming atmosphere. What if your small backyard could bloom upward instead of outward? When you're working with limited square footage, thinking vertically can unlock an entirely new layer of beauty, especially with flowering vines and climbing plants. Forget about cramming flower beds into narrow corners. Instead, imagine a wooden fence transformed into a living wall of vibrant blooms. From the delicate blue of morning glories to the tropical pinks of miniature bougainvillea, vertical flower walls let you reclaim the vertical space most people overlook. Suddenly, your backyard doesn't just feel lush, it feels immersive. This idea isn't about expensive structures or fancy trellises. It's about maximizing what you already have. Fences, railings, even bare walls become the canvas for your vertical garden. With the right climbing flowers, a flat, lifeless barrier becomes a dynamic backdrop bursting with color, texture, and motion. Each bloom becomes part of a living tapestry, catching the breeze, trailing toward the sun, and creating a soft, natural contrast to hard architectural lines. Even if your yard is barely the size of a parking spot, flower walls can make it feel like a secret garden. They soften the space, create privacy, and bring color to a level most people don't think to design. It's no longer just about the ground, it's about what surrounds you. So if you've ever felt boxed in by your yard's small size, look up. There's a garden waiting on your walls. Designing a vertical flower wall in a small backyard is both a practical and artistic solution to limited horizontal space. Instead of trying to cram color into flower beds that cut into your usable yard, you can elevate your garden quite literally by training flowering vines and climbers to grow upward. This approach not only saves valuable ground area but also transforms plain fences and walls into living, breathing works of art. Start by evaluating your vertical surfaces. Do you have a wooden fence? A metal trellis? Even the side of a shed or garage can become a growing space. These surfaces act as your foundation. If they don't have climbing supports built in, you can add simple lattice panels, chicken wire, or natural bamboo canes to help plants grip and grow. Next, choose your flowers wisely. For full sun, opt for fast-growing climbers like morning glories, which unfurl vibrant blue and purple blooms every morning, or sweet peas, known for their pastel colors and delicate fragrance. If your space leans tropical or semi-shaded, miniature bougainvillea can deliver massive color with little effort. Clematis is another strong performer. It offers a wide range of colors and shapes, from star-like petals to double blooms. Spacing is important when planting climbers. Place them 8 to 12 inches from your wall to allow for airflow and root expansion. Water consistently, especially in warmer months, and consider adding mulch at the base to help retain moisture. For containers, use tall planters or hanging baskets with trailing flowers like nasturtiums or trailing petunias to create a cascading waterfall effect. To boost visual impact, mix flowering climbers with decorative foliage plants like ivy or creeping figure. This adds depth and texture, especially during times when the flowers are between blooms. The contrast between leafy greens and vivid blooms can create a balanced, layered look much like a natural mural. One of the biggest benefits of a vertical flower wall is privacy. While traditional fences are plain and uninspiring, covering them with flowers provides a soft screen that's not only functional but beautiful. It can turn even a simple wire fence into a colorful privacy hedge. Maintenance is relatively easy once established. Most flowering vines are low effort, they just need occasional guidance. Tie them to supports, regular watering, and seasonal trimming to encourage new growth. And because the vertical layout keeps blooms away from foot traffic, they stay cleaner and less damaged than flowers at ground level. A vertical flower wall can completely shift the energy of your small backyard. Instead of feeling confined, it feels lifted. Instead of monotone barriers, you get vertical gardens bursting with life. With this approach, you don't lose space, you gain walls of color and charm. In a small backyard, one of the most overlooked design opportunities is the pathway. Most people focus on the lawn or the patio, but the space between that narrow strip of ground where your feet walk holds incredible power. And when it's lined with colorful flowers, something magical happens. The space transforms from a basic route to a visual experience. Picture a winding stone path surrounded by a burst of blooms on each side. Lavender, pansies, snapdragons, and salvia guide your every step, creating a natural runway of color. The flowers don't just sit there, they lead you somewhere. They draw your eye forward, making your space feel larger and more connected. It's a trick designers love to use. Paths that draw attention create the illusion of depth. And in a tiny yard, that illusion is gold. This idea isn't about symmetry or perfection, it's about rhythm and motion. The flowers act like little flags of welcome, inviting you to walk, explore, and linger. Even in a straight line, the path becomes a journey. And by planting flowers of varying heights and colors along the edges, you introduce movement and texture where there was once just plain ground. So, if your backyard feels small and disconnected, start by defining your walkways and then decorate them. A flower-filled path can change everything. It ties the garden together, adds story to your space, and transforms how people move through it. In a small garden, that's more than design, that's magic. Designing flower-filled pathways in a small backyard is one of the most elegant and functional ways to bring structure, color, and visual interest into your outdoor space. Unlike a simple walkway or stepping stone path, a flower-lined path draws you in, offers a destination, and frames your journey with blooms that shift in color and texture as the seasons change. Start with the path itself. Whether you're using gravel, flagstone, mulch, or even compacted soil, the key is to make it defined and walkable. A width of about 24 to 36 inches is ideal for small spaces wide enough to walk comfortably, but narrow enough to leave room for plants on either side. Once the path is in place, the real fun begins, selecting the flowers. Focus on plants that are low-growing but vibrant. Pansies and violas are ideal for cooler months and come in a wide variety of colors. For warmer weather, go for marigolds, salvias, dwarf zinnias, or even short varieties of snapdragons. These flowers are durable, colorful, and perfect for creating that borderline bloom effect. Height variation adds a dynamic touch. Try planting shorter flowers right at the edge, with slightly taller varieties behind them. This layering creates a floral gradient that adds visual richness without crowding the path. Use repetition and rhythm, for instance, alternating colors every few feet to guide the eye forward and keep the experience engaging. If you're planting along a curved path, use clusters of the same flower species to create visual anchors. On a straight path, use a gradient of warm to cool tones to stretch the space visually. This trick of color psychology helps small paths feel longer and more immersive. Pay attention to bloom timing as well. Combine early bloomers with long-season annuals and stagger planting times to keep the path vibrant from spring through fall. Companion planting with herbs like thyme or chamomile adds fragrance and texture, while deterring pests naturally. Maintenance is relatively easy. Since these flowers are right along your walking route, watering and pruning can become part of your daily rhythm. Mulching around the flower bases helps retain moisture, suppress weeds, and creates a clean, defined edge to your path. Beyond beauty, flower-filled pathways create movement in your garden. They connect different zones, help define open spaces, and provide a focal line that directs the eye outward, making even a tiny yard feel more expansive. They turn the act of walking into an experience, and in a small backyard, experiences are everything. Whether you're stepping outside with a morning coffee or hosting friends for a garden stroll, a path lined with flowers invites everyone to slow down, take it in, and appreciate the beauty along the way. What if your small backyard could look like a page from a modern art gallery, bold, clean, and full of intentional color? That's exactly what color-blocked flower beds can do. In a space where every square foot matters, using color as a design element lets you create impact without clutter. Rather than scattering flowers randomly throughout the garden, color blocking invites you to group blooms by hue, transforming your backyard into a vibrant, organized mosaic of nature. Picture this. One bed filled entirely with deep red zinnias. Another bursts with bright yellow coreopsis. A third sways with blue lobelia or sky-colored ageratum. These bold blocks of color aren't just pretty, they bring a sense of structure to your space. It's an intentional style choice that makes even the smallest garden look curated and artistic. What makes this approach so appealing is how it balances creativity with simplicity. You don't need exotic plants or advanced landscaping. Just pick a few flower varieties that thrive in your climate and arrange them in solid groups by color. The result is a modern, eye-catching garden that feels both alive and peaceful. If your yard feels messy or lacks focus, color blocking brings instant clarity. It's not about symmetry. It's about bold visual flow. And when you walk through a space that's been divided by color, each section popping in its own unique way, you feel like you're in a designed environment, not just a backyard. Color blocking with flowers isn't just a design trick. It's a statement, and it works beautifully in even the tiniest gardens. Color blocking is a timeless design technique, often seen in fashion and interior design, and it translates beautifully into garden spaces, especially small ones. In the context of backyard gardening, color blocking means planting flowers in large, uninterrupted sections of a single color. This creates distinct visual zones that add structure, drama, and clarity, all essential in a small space where visual noise can be overwhelming. To begin, evaluate your garden layout. Choose 2 to 4 zones where flower beds can be placed without disrupting walking paths or existing features. These can be along the edges, corners, or center, as long as they're visible and get good sunlight. Next, choose your palette. Stick to 3 or 4 colors that complement each other. You could go bold with red, yellow, and orange, or serene with lavender, sky blue, and white. The key is contrast, and balanced colors should stand out from one another while still feeling cohesive. Using a color wheel as reference can help you pick combinations that are either analogous, next to each other, or complementary, opposites on the wheel. Now choose the plants. Opt for easy-to-maintain flowers that bloom long and consistently. For red, consider zinnias or geraniums. For yellow, try marigolds or coreopsis. For blues and purples, lobelia, salvia, or petunias work wonderfully. And for whites, alyssum or white cosmos offer a clean, bright look. When planting, avoid mixing colors within the same bed. Let each block of color have its own space. This separation makes each section more striking and helps the viewer's eye appreciate the distinct beauty of each hue. If your beds are side by side, consider using natural dividers like gravel lines, stone borders, or ground covers to further emphasize the block effect. Don't worry if your beds are small, even a 3 by 3 foot patch filled with a single flower type can make a huge impression. And if space is tight, try layering vertically. Use raised planters or tiered pots to create color blocks at varying heights. The benefits of this method are plenty. First, it simplifies gardening. Each block has similar care needs, which makes watering, pruning, and fertilizing easier. Second, it reduces visual clutter. Instead of a chaotic mix of colors, your eye can enjoy defined, peaceful areas. And lastly, it creates a strong design identity. Color blocking makes your garden feel intentional, like a space with a point of view. To maintain the look throughout the season, choose a mix of annuals and perennials. This allows for color continuity while also refreshing certain sections as flowers fade. Deadheading spent blooms and occasional trimming will keep each block neat and bold. In a small backyard, color-blocked flower beds are a powerful design tool. They help you control the visual narrative of your space, turning a potentially cramped area into a vibrant, organized, and immersive garden environment. The corners, the perimeters. But what if the real magic happens right in the middle? That's the power of Flower Island's small, circular or oval garden beds nestled in the middle of your lawn. These colorful islands break up flat spaces and instantly make your backyard feel more dimensional, alive, and luxurious even if it's tiny. Imagine a patch of rich green grass with a burst of coral, pink, and yellow blooms right at the center like a living bouquet planted in the earth. These islands become natural focal points. From every angle, your eye is drawn to the color, the shape, and the contrast between lawn and bloom. They make your space look thoughtfully designed without needing large structures or complex landscaping. In a small backyard, flower islands add shape and personality. They help divide the yard into visual zones, add softness to open grassy areas, and give you a chance to experiment with color and height right where it's most visible. And because the planting is contained, it's easier to manage, easier to swap out with the seasons, and always a standout feature. If your backyard feels flat or empty in the center, this is your opportunity to change everything with just one bold, flower-filled shape. Whether you go with a single island or a few scattered accents, this design idea turns open space into a canvas and flowers into natural sculptures. Flower islands are a clever, visually impactful way to add personality to a small backyard, especially if you have a central lawn space that feels underwhelming or blank. These islands, essentially isolated garden beds placed in the middle of grassy areas, can transform the way your outdoor space looks and feels, without disrupting your yard's functionality. The concept is simple. Carve out a circular, oval, or organically shaped patch of soil right in the center or focal area of your lawn. This patch becomes your canvas for flowers. Depending on the size of your backyard, your island can be as small as 3 feet across or as wide as 6 to 8 feet for more drama. The goal is to create a vibrant centerpiece that feels deliberate, balanced, and beautiful from all viewing angles. Begin by defining your island's shape using a hose, rope, or chalk line. Once you're happy with the placement and curve, dig out the grass and amend the soil with compost to prepare it for planting. Raised edges, using natural stone, wood, or just a gentle soil mound, can help give the bed definition and keep grass from creeping in. Now comes the fun part: selecting your flowers. Choose varieties that offer color, contrast, and long blooming periods. A good rule of thumb is to plant taller flowers like cosmos, coneflowers, or snapdragons in the center and work your way outward with mid-height flowers like marigolds, calendula, or dianthus. Finish the edges with low-growing varieties such as alyssum, creeping zinnias, or lobelia to soften the perimeter and blend the bed back into the lawn. Consider color cohesion. You can go with a single palette like warm oranges and reds, or create contrast with complementary color blocks, e.g., purple and yellow. You could also do a soft, romantic island with pastel shades of pink, lavender, and white. The visual benefit is immediate. Instead of a blank patch of green, you now have an eye-catching display that breaks up the monotony. It adds layers to your space and naturally draws people's attention inward. From a design standpoint, flower islands help balance your backyard. If you have dense planting along the fence, an island in the center adds weight and visual symmetry. Maintenance is straightforward, especially since you can walk around the island for easy access. Keep mulch on top of the soil to retain moisture, and deadhead blooms as needed to keep the flowers vibrant. You can even change the flowers seasonally or add low solar edging, if desired, for subtle structure. Flower islands are also surprisingly functional. They don't interfere with foot traffic, keep the lawn usable, and provide a strong focal point, something every garden needs, no matter the size. In the end, these floating gardens add magic. They're like colorful gems nestled in the middle of your green space, and they make your small backyard feel carefully curated, balanced, and full of life. There's something incredibly satisfying about rhythm in design. Whether it's architecture, fashion, or landscaping, repeating elements create a sense of structure and balance that the human eye naturally loves. In a small backyard garden, one of the most effective ways to create that sense of harmony is through repetition planting, especially with bright, easy-care perennials. Picture a narrow garden bed along the side of your yard, where bold patches of yellow black-eyed Susans, purple coneflowers, and lavender bloom in perfect intervals. The same group of flowers, repeating every few feet, creates a visual rhythm that feels clean, intentional, and utterly calming. It's like your garden is speaking in a steady, confident voice. No clutter, no chaos, just pattern and flow. What makes this technique perfect for small spaces is how it simplifies your layout. Instead of planting dozens of different flowers in a tight space and creating visual overload, repetition gives your eye a place to rest. It draws attention in a linear, almost meditative way. Plus, when you use perennials, you get the added benefit of year-after-year blooms without the need to replant. If you've ever looked at your backyard and thought it felt a little too jumbled or unorganized, repetition planting could be your answer. It's a designer's trick for making small spaces look bigger, calmer, and more cohesive, and all it takes is a simple, thoughtful planting pattern with flowers that come back stronger every season. Repetition planting is a technique that garden designers often use to create balance, flow, and unity in outdoor spaces, and it's especially powerful in small backyards. Rather than mixing a large number of flower varieties and colors, repetition planting uses consistent groupings of the same plant at regular intervals to form a clear, organized layout. The result? A garden that feels calm, intentional, and welcoming without sacrificing color or charm. Start by selecting 2 or 3 varieties of flowering perennials that thrive in your local climate. These should be plants that offer bold color, reliable blooming, and manageable growth habits. Great choices include echinacea, coneflowers, in pink or purple, rudbeckia, black-eyed Susans, in golden yellow, and lavandula, lavender, in soft blue or violet. These 3, for example, offer a classic warm meets cool palette with plenty of textural contrast. Next, map out your planting bed. Whether you're working with a narrow side yard, a corner strip, or a small square of land, use a linear or staggered formation to repeat your plant groupings. Think of it like a pattern. Coneflower lavender rudbeckia, repeated over and over. This visual rhythm gives your garden structure and allows the plants to work as a unified design element instead of competing for attention. Spacing is key. Allow each plant enough room to grow fully without crowding its neighbors. Stagger rows or plant in zigzag lines if you want to create depth. Keep the taller plants in the back or center and lower growing ones near the edge for layered height. One of the major advantages of using perennials is sustainability. Once planted, they return year after year with minimal maintenance. Over time, they establish strong root systems, become more drought-resistant, and bloom more vigorously. Many perennials also attract pollinators like butterflies and bees, which boosts your garden's ecosystem. To maintain your repetition planting, simply remove faded blooms regularly, apply mulch to retain moisture, and trim back growth in the off-season. You can also mix in a few seasonal annuals for temporary pops of color, but the backbone of your design will stay consistent and strong thanks to the repeated perennials. Repetition planting also makes your garden feel more spacious. When you repeat the same flower in a small area, your eye perceives continuity, which makes the space appear longer, wider, or more symmetrical. It's a subtle trick that works particularly well in urban gardens, narrow backyards, or awkward side spaces. Visually, this method creates a clean, confident garden aesthetic. It gives your outdoor space the polish of a professionally designed landscape, even if you're only working with a few feet of soil. And emotionally, there's something deeply relaxing about seeing the same friendly blooms return in waves throughout the garden. Whether you're planting in beds, borders, or containers, repetition planting with bright perennials is a game changer. It brings rhythm, color, and clarity to your garden and turns even the tiniest backyard into a well-orchestrated floral retreat. Sometimes the most beautiful gardens aren't the ones that look perfectly manicured, they're the ones that feel a little wild, a little spontaneous, and completely alive. That's why dedicating a corner of your small backyard to wildflowers can be such a powerful design move. It's not about perfection, it's about letting nature take the lead. Imagine a tucked-away corner of your yard exploding with cheerful blooms, cornflowers, calendula, gaillardia, and cosmos dancing in the breeze, attracting butterflies and buzzing with bees. There's something deeply soothing and soul-stirring about the look of a wildflower patch. It's colorful, unpredictable, and wonderfully relaxed, the exact opposite of high-maintenance gardening. In a small backyard, space is precious. But a wildflower corner doesn't need much room to make an impact. Just 1 square yard of soil, seeded with a thoughtful blend of flowers, can become a visual sanctuary. It softens harsh corners, brings movement and variety, and adds an authentic, lived-in feeling to your outdoor space. Even better, wildflower corners are low-effort, high-reward. They thrive with minimal care, adapt to different soil conditions, and bloom generously throughout the season. If you're looking for a garden feature that feels carefree but looks breathtaking, this is it. Let go of the lines and the symmetry. Let the corner bloom in its own time and style. Because in a small yard, sometimes the wildest part is also the most beautiful. Wildflower corners are one of the most underrated ways to bring life, color, and movement into a small backyard, especially if you want a more natural, low-maintenance aesthetic. This planting style embraces irregularity, celebrates seasonal change, and transforms even the most overlooked corners into vibrant, blooming sanctuaries. The idea is simple. Instead of fighting nature with perfectly trimmed borders or tightly spaced perennials, you create a small patch where nature gets to do its thing. You select a variety of hardy wildflowers, prepare the soil, sow your seeds, and let the plants grow freely. The result? A colorful and ever-changing tapestry of blooms that attracts pollinators, adds texture, and gives your garden an effortlessly organic feel. Start by selecting the right spot. Choose a corner that gets at least 6 hours of sunlight a day. It could be near a fence, beside a shed, or tucked behind a tree line. The irregular shape of corners actually works in your favor here. Wildflowers don't need symmetry, and the unpredictable lines make the area feel more like a pocket of nature than a planned flower bed. Prepare the soil by removing weeds and loosening the dirt. You don't need perfect soil. Wildflowers are incredibly forgiving, but adding a little compost can help boost initial growth. Next, choose a wildflower seed mix tailored to your region and climate. Great options include cornflowers, cosmos, gaillardia, calendula, poppies, and yarrow. You can find pre-made mixes at most garden centers, often labeled by region, like Northeast Wildflower Mix or Pollinator-Friendly Blend. Scatter the seeds evenly, press them lightly into the soil, and water gently. Then be patient. Wildflowers take time to establish, and the magic often starts in the second season. But even the first year can surprise you with scattered blooms and spontaneous combinations that no formal planting could ever match. One of the greatest joys of a wildflower corner is the unpredictability. No 2 seasons are alike. You'll see different patterns emerge, different blooms dominate, and new pollinators arrive. The corner becomes its own little ecosystem, buzzing, blooming, and changing from week to week. And best of all, maintenance is minimal. Unlike traditional flower beds, wildflowers don't require constant deadheading, fertilizing, or replanting. You may need to thin out overcrowded sections or pull a few weeds here and there, but mostly, you just observe and enjoy. At the end of the growing season, let the plants go to seed. That way, they'll self-sow for next year. A wildflower corner might seem small, but its impact is big. It adds a softness to your yard that's hard to replicate with structured beds. It invites wildlife, cools the space with its lush foliage, and gives your garden a wild, romantic soul. If your small backyard needs a touch of freedom, a space that feels alive and untouched, let the wildflowers take the lead. And there you have it, 7 creative ways to transform even the smallest backyard into a vibrant flower oasis. Whether you're framing your garden with bold borders, planting wildflower corners, or letting blooms climb sky-high, every idea we shared today proves that color, beauty, and nature don't need a lot of space, just a little inspiration. Thank you for visiting Green Garden Community TV. If you found these ideas helpful, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment, and of course share this video with fellow garden lovers. Until next time, keep growing beautifully.